Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of Primetime Crisis Live. I am Captain Logan, and here is, as it stands right now, the Crisis team. It's the magnanimous Real Manos!
Hey, kids! It's me, the Real Manos!
And it's Beware, the Steve Baxi!
Hello, everybody.
Hi, folks. So tonight is somewhat of a slim evening, but we're going to have a whole lot of fun with you. We are going to begin with the first three episodes of... Let's do a little jig. The Justice League Gods and Monsters Chronicles machinima series that is leading up to the movie, and then I guess they're doing more of it after that. I guess we'll talk about that, but that's what's going on right now with that thing. There's three of those. They're little 5-minute shorts, and we're going to talk about each of those tonight for you. And then after that, we're going to talk about Manos' retro pick. Manos went with the 1977 Spider-Man pilot. What is it with 1977 and superhero television?
That was a great time.
It's really strange. Yeah, and you can tell why certain things eclipsed other things, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Also, as always, we'll have an open forum at the end of the show. For a few minutes, we'll chat with you about whatever you'd like us to talk about as far as comics to screen goes. I know there's a lot of news right now about new Spider-Man and stuff like that, so we'll talk about all that stuff for you and more. So anyway, welcome. Good to see you. If you've never been to the show live before, we have a blue chat in the description. You can chat with us as we go along. There's quite a few people there already. You can chat with your fellow viewers and also with us and help us direct the conversation. Dan Torrey should be here any minute. In fact, I just got a Facebook message from Dan. He's on his way. He's on his way. So we will talk for as long as we can get away with talking about this thing. And I want to wait for Dan before we start talking about Spider-Man because, of course, Dan is, Spider Dan. He's our resident Spider-Man expert, and I know he has a great deal of interesting perspective, I'm sure, on this. I talked to him a little bit earlier about it, and he was already saying things that I was like, I would never have thought of that. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Anyway, welcome everybody. Good to see you. Hi, folks. And now let's get into Gods and Monsters. So I want to start with Steve because I'm sure my guess is Steve doesn't like this at all, and I want to see if I'm right, and I want to see what Steve has to say. So let's start with Steve. Steve, what do you think about these? What's your first impression? Is there anything here beyond just setting up a strange movie thing, and anything you like about it? Go ahead.
I thought the Superman 1 bomb was decent. The Wonder Woman 1 was awful, and the Batman 1 was nothing. It was nothing for 5 minutes. Absolute nothing. The one thing I liked about the Batman 1 was Michael C. Hall is fantastic as Langstrom Batman. I think that's a really good voice choice.
Yeah.
Even if you want to do just regular mainstream Batman TV or animated movies, he's fantastic for the role. Other than that, I don't know. The premise was in the trailer. I don't know why we need these. And they don't really give us much outside of just establishing that premise, and it's really vague about it for strange reasons. Because if you follow this at all, that's the only way you're going to know that these episodes exist. And if you're following it at all, you already know the premise, so why do you need to watch them? And if you're not following it and you just watch the trailer, you get the exact same amount of information. So why do they exist?
There's sort of a little bit of character establishing, I guess, where it's like, here's sort of what these alternate versions of characters are. But that's about it, and I'm with you. There's maybe enough of that in the trailer already. What do you think, Manos? What are any of these stand out amongst the others as kind of this one's kind of neat, or how do you feel about them?
The Superman one I thought was good. That's the kind of good it is. It's like, I guess it was good. The Batman one was just I don't know. It was kind of, I don't like saying meh because I think that's such a, I don't know, a jerky thing to say, but it is. I was at least relieved to see like an actual full-on evil Harley Quinn, which I've never been a big fan of her as anti-hero or someone we should like root for. It's like I always figured, no, she's a pretty terrible person. We should like embrace that, and at least this does. Outside of that, I wasn't crazy about the pseudo Rob Zombie setup she had.
That's a great way to put that.
It is. It was very House of a Thousand Corpses in some ways, except not as good. And the costume for Batman is just very bad. It's Terry McGinnis in the X-Men. It is. I don't like it at all. And I agree with Michael C. Hall. Well, Michael C. Hall is just great. I mean, just like put him in anything, he's terrific.
Even in those last few seasons of Dexter, where that show was awful, he never toned down the acting.
Oh yeah, he brings the acting. I first knew him in 6 Feet Under, and I thought he was brilliant in that show. And the Wonder Woman one, I don't know, it was okay. It was just like it seemed like almost like it seemed like a lame pre-credits Brave and the Bold sequence with sex.
That's great, but if you had a more adult version of that show
and not as well done, it'd be that.
Sure.
I like how they recycled the bomb from Crisis on Two Earths. It was funny. I was talking to Lindsay this morning about the fact that we were going to do Gods and Monsters, and I was describing the episodes to her. I could not remember what Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor fought. I I can't remember a damn thing from that except they had sex at the end.
Did they call it Giganta? Was it?
I think it was Giganta.
It was Giganta.
Yes. It was a robot Giganta, I think.
And it was Giganta. Or at least a robot Giganta. And it's Cobra, the DC version of Cobra.
Or the DC version of the Serpent Society.
Serpent Society, yeah. And they're so evil they put nipples on their robots.
Yeah, well, a lot of that is part of, and I kind of wanted to talk about this. Let's make things as super ultra adult and dark and kind of gratuitous as possible, and not really earn a lot of that. Okay, you can never earn gratuitousness because that word means a thing. I just mean that this stuff is all so far looking like really ultra violent and trying to be and really in a lot of sex and stuff, and trying to be kind of shocking, and that's the way they're doing it. That stuff, it's not shocking anymore, right? What's shocking about it? It's just, if it was. If it was a thing where I was really invested in characters and it suddenly became a much darker thing than maybe I thought it was, but it earned it, I might be shocked by, oh my God, you're gonna make this happen to this character? Oh no, And I'm having that a little bit playing Arkham Knight, where I get shocked in that game, not because, oh my God, look how dark it is. It's because you're subverting expectations. This is not that. The Harley Quinn thing seems to be, let's be as disturbing as possible for no good reason. And I think that's, and the problem for me right now is it just feels like that's the whole premise of it, right? It's what if the Justice League was the most disturbing thing ever? That's kind of what it watches to me right now.
And that's the only way they're pitching it, too. If you listen to Bruce Timm or anyone at DC talk about it, they're like, this is the Justice League if they were dark. But I keep saying this, dark relative to what? Have they watched the recent movies? Have they read the comics recently?
Have they watched the direct-to-video movies they've been, the same company has been releasing?
Did they forget about the Justice Lords from their own show?
It's that dark, but it's okay, so it's the Justice Lords if you call them it cracks me up when anybody says, what if the Justice League were dark? I'm like, well, we had a team in 52 Justice League dark.
I know, it's just you made a great point about subverting expectations. That's all I ever see anymore, especially from DC. Oh hey, wouldn't it be cool to see it dark? I always see them dark. Now, where's the good version of them?
The most refreshing thing right now would be Super Friends. That's just how I feel about it. Manos, did you see that that Target exclusive thing that was kind of made for kids?
I have not seen it. I've seen clips of it. I think somebody reviewed it. Didn't you review it?
I haven't talked about it much yet. No, I didn't do a full review. I saw it well after the fact and haven't done a review. And it was so funny the way that the way that was advertised when it came out too, or not advertised, because it was kind of a sleeper thing. Where it was like, oh, and here's this. But when I finally started seeing things about it, everybody was like, it's a Justice League movie for kids. We live in a topsy-turvy world now where it's a big deal when you make superhero things that are actually for children. And now I'm even going to go as far as to say it's a big deal when you make superhero things that are for children and not Lego. And there's some great Lego stuff right now. By the way, really quick, there's a Lego movie that just came out that is Justice League versus Bizarro League, and it's hilarious, and everyone should watch it. I really enjoy it. But anyway, so yeah, like right now, it's more shocking to make it wholesome.
Mm-hmm. It would be, and you know I don't know if you've been into Target and been through the DVD section, but they don't wash these films. I mean, you could see that Justice League, something through time, it's called.
That's what. Yeah.
On the shelf next to Dark Knight Returns. It's like, hey guys, they're not the same target audience. And
I think people not paying attention and that aren't into this stuff, and I'm sympathetic and I understand why this is happening, don't realize just how for adults they're trying to make this stuff now. But then a lot of the time the stories, and I feel like that's what we're getting right now with this stuff potentially, but we'll see what the movie's like. But the stories aren't necessarily like more adult in the sense of like more sophisticated and about things, and like about issues that kids aren't going to want to see movies about, or are maybe a little bit too heavy for kids. But I will say that the Bomb one definitely had that, and I'm interested to see if that's going to be, and that's the one I liked the most too. It only being a 5-minute short, first of all, I got a lot done in 5 minutes. Being a 5-minute short, though, I found myself feeling like we didn't have enough time to really get into why Superman felt the urgency to kill that Brainiac without looking for another potential option right then. And I like that we're there with him for a minute, and he really feels it, and he feels horrible about it, and wishes he didn't have to do that. And I thought it was really sad, and I was impressed that it made me kind of care for a minute, especially after the whole Waller thing. Hi, Dan. Hey, look, it's Dan.
It's Dan.
But I thought that the Waller thing, set that up really well. Where when she was like, you guys made this thing, and it was meant to stop Superman, but now look what's going on, and then Superman has to. I mean, it's not really Superman's fault, except I don't know why he didn't, have a little bit of time to try to come up with some other way out.
Well, importantly, he's the son of Zod in this, so I can see why.
Oh, I didn't know that. I've not looked into.
Oh yeah. Oh, he is the son of Zod. He's not Kal-El.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
so he's inherently darker in that way. So watching it from the perspective of this kid was raised by Zod to be a conqueror, and he still has a little bit of a heart, and then that's the consistent trait of Superman. I think that's kind of cool.
That's great.
That's what I kind of took away from it too. I knew going in that he was the son of Zod, not
I haven't seen that trailer in a while. I forgot all about that.
Yeah, it's not bad. But then there's also an episode of Justice League Unlimited called Epilogue, where the opening of it is Waller creates another character just like this, and she's Ace for the Royal Flush Gang, and she's able to alter reality and blow things up, and she's about to make the whole universe unstable. And Batman shows up and stays with her and calms her down and wait until she dies in his arms. And that's the complete opposite of how Superman handled it here. And I wonder if they're doing that on purpose, or if Tim just forgot the way he used to write superheroes.
I don't. You know what I was thinking? I was watching. I rewatched this afternoon.
No, real quick. Do we know who actually wrote these?
Oh, I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Credits. I was watching these again this afternoon, and they reminded me of something. Stop me if this sounds crazy, but you know how a band, after they break up, comes out with a big box set with all their hits and all their CDs all together, and then they have like those extras of stuff they never released because they weren't good enough. This kind of reminds me of that. Like, Bruce Timm and the crew did some fantastic, earth-changing, fantastic shows and some films, and now they're back with a new box set of some of their leftovers that never made it, and that's Justice League, Gods and Monsters Chronicles. It does seem a little bit leftovery from stuff they've done before. I mean, for God's sakes, you see the bomb from Crisis of Two Earths in the Wonder Woman. I have to say I agree. I like the Superman one the most, and because what I have a problem with what I've seen so far of this and some dark superhero stuff is the darkness never seems real to me. The darkness never seems earned. It actually, the mature seems immature when I see a lot of this stuff. And there's no real weight to any of the drama. And that's the one that did feel like it had some. Because I knew he was the son of Zod, I was expecting him to be a lot more harsher and cold. And we do see, it's funny. It's the character Superbad that we see kind of the most humane in this grouping, with his evil goatee and slick back hair and black suit. It was a moment that seemed to kind of get to him the most. And of course, you can make the argument why didn't he bother to do something else? I'm sure the point. If Bruce Timm was part of this chat, he'd probably say, "Well, that's the difference. Clark would try to do something different."
Yeah, fair enough. Everybody in the comments are telling us that he was actually sent to Earth as a baby, just like Kal-El was, and wasn't actually raised by Zod, but is Zod's son. So that's important to note. And then somebody was. Didn't you notice that he had a goatee? And I was like, well, that doesn't necessarily mean he was raised by Zod. And then also, I want to address this real quick. Who was it? Somebody was like, you guys need to do. Oh, I know what. Dark Knight fan 70. You guys need to do more research. With things like this, a lot of the time when I can, I like to kind of go in and give you my first impression on it. Where I'm watching it, because the thing is, these especially, have been kind of like, I'm hearing more about these than I am the actual movie that they're setting up, right? And I don't know why that is, but there was all that news when that came out, there's going to be this Justice League TV show, and it's put out by Machinima, and then I heard about the movie after the fact, and so I feel like a lot of people are going to go into this having heard about it and not really know anything, and be kind of lost. These don't hold up real great without some prior knowledge, as we're finding, and the only I guess there's a little bit of that in the trailer, but where would you expect somebody to go? You really expect people to go read a lot about this before they watch these things that have sort of been touted up it's a thing you can just watch? Am I wrong about that?
No, I think you got that absolutely right. I think part of the problem is DC doesn't know how it's marketing these animated movies anymore. Because there used to be a time where you could get a whole bunch of this information really quickly. Everyone was really excited about them. Every movie has a feature for the next one. There would be commercials on TV and everything. And now, because they're selling so few copies, it's like no one really cares. So you don't see enough details being put out about them. You don't see anyone getting excited about making them.
On the other hand, I think with this one, the marketing is better because I'm hearing about it. I mean, I saw a comment from somebody earlier today. I forget on what, but one of our videos that was like, I'm here, or maybe it was even Facebook about us doing the show tonight. They were like, I'm hearing more about this than I have any of these DC direct-to-video movies, and it seems like just because they did this lead-up series, there's been more news about it. I don't know why that is, but maybe that was smart of them.
And also, it's also the return of Bruce Timm to DC projects as well. I mean, that alone is worth noting. I mean, that's why I was interested in watching these. I mean, if this was anybody else, I wouldn't even bother watching this.
I wish he was involved with the actual film and not just the shorts, because he's not doing anything with the project aside from this.
Yeah, and again, it's been a few weeks since we talked about that trailer, but I couldn't help but think that the animation in this looked fabulous, and that I remember looking at the animation for the movie and thinking, this doesn't look great. But the biggest compliment, besides some of the stuff I liked about Bomb, that I can say about this is I really like the animation. I mean, obviously it's Bruce Timm throwback. It looks very much like that show, but it's stellar.
I would agree about the animation, particularly the Superman one, with that whirling storm. You really do get a sense of the impending threat on it, and it's a good. It's a good thing that really keeps the threat up, and it's scary. It's a scary looking storm that Brainiac has caused. And with that scene of the people in the bus, I mean, they keep the tension up the whole 5 minutes short.
Absolutely.
When the others seem kind of like play by numbers. I mean, basically, I knew what was going to happen all throughout that Batman piece. Like with Harley saying, "Oh, take me to jail." I'm like, "Oh, okay, this is when he kills her." And
well, and the
Wonder Woman one was, what's that?
Yeah, the one I was gonna mention, the Wonder Woman one. I just thought that whole thing you said by the numbers, it was super predictable. It's like, really, how long are you gonna fight a giant robot before you need help from Wonder Woman? Right? Like that whole thing was just so incredibly typical. Sometimes I wonder where things like that come from with people where it's like oh, I can't, or with men where it's like, oh, I can't ask for help from a girl. I gotta do this all on my own. I gotta show how macho, and I mean like maybe that comes from a character plays, but you just look so stupid because you're standing next to a person with a lot of superpowers. I did really like the look on his face when he's like, no, I got this. This is my responsibility. I got this. And then it's this giant robot, and he's like, oh, and she's like just standing back next to the wall. Okay, fine. You got that was kind of funny, but I would have, if I had been him, immediately been like, oh, okay, fine. I apologize. That was stupid.
Yeah.
This giant robot. For a second, it came off a little bit like, well, now I really don't want to ask for her help because it's a female robot. But I don't know if that was really there.
I hope not. Let's see. I was watching second time around. I was watching it with Lindsay, and she asked me like, "How is her top staying up?" And
that's a good question.
And then she rips his top off. It's like, whoa, okay, I guess there's no reason for it to keep staying.
And that whole thing still really forced adult stuff. The whole like safe word.
Oh yeah, that was yeah, it was. I mean, here's a fun fact about me. I can't have sex in the same room with dead bodies. I don't know.
That's what I was gonna do. And I'm just like, okay, these people are evil. And more than that, we're supposed not evil, but like they're darker and they're grittier, and we're supposed to think though that they're charmingly so.
Yes, we were supposed to do that, or go, ooh, that's hot. I don't know. It's just
yeah. Wait, who's that for? Anyway, let's answer some questions and comments from the audience real quick before we move on. Mind the Gap says, personally, darkness is not that much of a problem for me. Superheroes in general will lighten things up. I just think having gods and monsters after things like Flashpoint are not as effective. That's a fair point.
Yeah, actually, that's not too different from what we were talking about. It's like, hey, this is going to be dark. Oh, okay. Now this is going to be dark. It's like okay, it's the norm, not the exception. Yeah, that's pretty close to what you were talking about, Logan.
I do think,
and I agree. I don't mind dark stuff. I've written pretty dark stuff. I love horror movies. But oh man, there's just I don't know if this is something I could totally articulate at this moment, but there's like an immature darkness. Actually, I mentioned this earlier. There's an immature darkness that like acts like it's really mature, but it really isn't. It's just as immature as any kid stuff.
Yeah, here's the difference between the Superman one and the Wonder Woman one especially. One of them is actually about some heavier stuff, and the other one, the skeleton of it, is a superhero story that could be told for 8-year-olds. That's the problem. I think it's that simple.
And I mean,
Rocket says, "Nice to know, Manos," referring to the fact that you don't want to have sex around dead bodies. See, we're forced to talk about these sorts of things on our kid. It's not my fault that the stuff we talk about is sometimes not as kid friendly as I almost said we are. All of us but Manos.
Well, that's advice I give to kids.
Sex education now, like just stay away from the dead bodies. It's not sanitary.
That would be part of Manos' sex education for kids. Don't have sex in the same room with dead bodies.
My God, this is okay. Well, moving right along. There were some other things in here that I want to mention. Damaged my forehead. Damaged my forehead, says Manos makes a good point. Bruce Timm's involvement made news on the nerd websites, which is how I knew anything about this prior to the shorts. Yeah, it just really bugs me that Bruce Timm didn't actually make the movie.
I'm disappointed because I actually thought he made the movie until you told me that.
Oh, well, now you're
Now I probably won't even see it.
Umbrella Academy. Also, why are all evil/dark versions of Wonder Woman really promiscuous and sexualized? Yeah, I don't know. I guess because evil chicks are, like, really into their sexuality.
Yeah, they do it.
Yeah. That's why. It's because somebody saw way too many episodes of Xena Warrior Princess.
I think she was less promiscuous than.
Oh no, I'm not talking.
5 minutes of.
I'm talking about Callisto.
Oh, Callisto. Okay, well, yeah.
That's why. Johnny Torch says that Manos needs to make a PSA.
That was my PSA.
Oh, that was your PSA. Okay, all right. We should that would be a horrible thing to post on my channel. Manos' PSA about not having sex around dead bodies. All right. Anything else you guys wanted to mention about this stuff before we move along? I think there is potentially some some potential in some of these ideas. Superman being the son of Zod is a cool idea, but now it makes me wish that we just made that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Johnny Torch, don't let this happen to you, says the Real Manos in his PSA.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. Okay, well, let's go ahead and move right along, and hopefully there's no more of that kind of thing in the following shorts that we may or may not end up talking about on the show. Okay, let's continue, shall we? Now it's time for the Amazing Spider-Man 1977 pilot. Let's welcome Dan to the program. Hello, Dan.
Hello, Dan.
Hello.
And I want to add this new rule that is every time somebody comes late to the program, they get applauded in. Yay! Welcome to Dan Torrey. He's here.
Yeah.
So Dan, you watched the Spider-Man pilot.
I did.
So this is going to be a lot of fun. This is Manos' pick. This is, as I said, the 1977 live-action Spider-Man pilot, which I was saying earlier, 1977, for some reason, big year for superheroes on TV, and attempted superhero stuff. I want to say that was right. Was that not right around the time that they tried that they did the Batman and other DC superhero thing with Adam West? Wasn't that like right around there?
That was around that time, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of this stuff. We talked about Incredible Hulk last time. Wonder Woman was that year. And this is a thing that nobody talks about. I think a lot of people don't even know happened. It's never brought up. Nobody ever talks about it. It didn't last that long. And we'll talk about why. And we'll talk about what we thought of the pilot. So a 2-hour pilot. Was really surprised that this was 2 hours. And then when I got finished with it, I was really surprised that it was as long as it was. And let's hear first from the Real Manos. Manos, why did you pick this? What is your history with it? And get us started. Just get the discussion jump started. Go ahead.
I'll pick this. I picked this because it's a beloved part of my childhood, frankly. I was 6 years old when this came out, and I actually watched this on TV first airing. And it was a big influence on me because I was just starting to. I was getting into I'd been into superheroes as a kid, and this, along with the '60s Spider-Man cartoon, which was in syndication at the time, so it was on TV all the time when I was a kid, was a big effect on me. I also watched the Electro Company at the time, and they had a Spider-Man segment. So I was really. That was about around the time, actually, and I can't remember how long before, but they were doing that too. And so, yeah, Spider-Man really kind of spoke to me as a kid. I was a big early fan of Spider-Man. I had noticed early on that there were some differences. Actually, it's funny because like Spider-Man doesn't talk in the Electric Company, and he doesn't talk that much in this. So him being a chatty guy was a late newsflash to me.
That's ironic. He's one of those superheroes that never shuts up, especially if Dan Slott writes him.
That's correct. And this is an interesting film. Nostalgia has an interesting way. People tend to marry their nostalgia. So hey, you can't say that about Ghostbusters 2. I loved it as a kid. Well, no, you can still recognize the fact that something you loved as a kid isn't that great, and you can still love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that it's bad and you have to hate it. You don't have to play that
bad,
simply.
But you can be okay with that and still enjoy it.
Exactly, and that's how I feel about this. I loved it. It was a big deal to me, but it's not that great. There's actually zero subtext in this. It's only text. Because it's weird going back and watching this. I don't have a real big problem with Nicholas Hammond's acting. There is no motivation for this Spider-Man, which is amazing to me.
Oh, yes, there is. Oh, yes, there is, Manos. His motivation is $46.
Yeah.
That's his entire motivation. This Spider-Man decides to put on a suit and invent web shooters because he made the mistake in one scene of telling J. Jonah Jameson, who I was surprised was even in this, that oh, I saw Spider-Man, and he had a costume, and he shoots webs, and so he went and made one, and he so badly wants $46 that I have no idea how he afforded to make it.
There's no Uncle Ben, there's no moral lesson, he just like, hey, I should probably fight crime in this costume.
Yep, pretty much, which is really sad, because that was exactly the kind of thing that Stan Lee was trying to get away from when he created the character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't have a problem with him being a little bit older, obviously. Actually, that makes the show work. It's funny watching the show again, and man, it just feels like an old 70s CBS detective show. It has all that kind of feel.
Especially with that theme in the background music.
Da-da-da-da-da! Oh, man. God, that gets me excited just talking about it, actually.
I laughed pretty hard when that theme song started playing immediately when they cut to him outside the window when he's like climbing. I was like, oh yes.
Now, Dan, now you guys, have you guys seen this before?
No.
No.
Okay.
I had seen a little bit of it, like when I was in junior high or high school. I don't know how I saw any of it, but so I saw a clip or two, and I think mostly what I saw was Spider-Man fighting the dudes in the masks. Just
Okay,
in the hallway, just kind of like wandering around. And by the way, how great is it when you get to the end and he goes, "Let's be buddies," and then they just let him through.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Trying to kill you stuff.
Well,
never mind.
They had wooden practice swords they were trying to hit him with.
I will say before I let it go, I will say before I turn the floor over, I will say I do like the mind control plot. It's an interesting plot. Like, I'll do this like self-help seminar. I'll control people's minds, have them rob banks and stuff for me. And it's an interesting idea, and there's some like cool moments of creepy tension. But other than that, that's by the way, since you only watch this in the whole Spider-Man series, there's no Spider-Man villains. We just get generic bad guys. So in the great gallery of Spider-Man, villains, we got the Green Goblin and Venom and Carnage and Byron, who is this guy.
It's not like there's a shortage of like businessmen or gangsters to choose from in the Spider-Man comics either. You got like the Big Man, and you could have used the Kingpin. You could have used Osborn, not in the costume. I mean,
they could have been. There's no attempt to even use. What's weird is they did a clone episode. Where he creates a clone of himself. I mean, of all the stupid stories, the one that makes it into the show is the clone story.
And I noticed that they did take a lot of stuff from 70s Spider-Man, and the clone stuff originally, where all that stuff started, was in the 70s during Jerry Conway's run, so I expect that's where they were looking to.
Yeah. All right, Dan, you are a huge Spider-Man fan, as am I, but you are younger and you've never seen this, so what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I thoroughly enjoyed it in the most ironic way possible. This was so much fun to watch. I noticed that they tried to reenact like certain things from the comics, like the scene in Amazing Fantasy 15 where the car comes speeding by while he's not paying attention. He kind of jumps on the on the building and realizes that he can climb walls. And in this, the car comes at him at like 5 miles an hour and follows him into an alley. And he just decides, oh, I guess I'll try to climb this wall randomly, and he just is able to do it. It's so good. And there's a lot of like places in this I noticed directing wise, like it's so padded out, they'll like linger on shots of people walking really slow in and out of rooms. And like it got really comical to the point where like Byron, when he tells Peter Parker he's gonna go grab pamphlets to show him about the self-help clinic.
Yeah.
And he walks so slow, and then it cuts to him in the room, and he's walking noticeably faster. So you can tell the director was like, please walk slower in this scene specifically to pad out the time. And it's so
There was
good.
a lot of that, right? Like, why is this 2 hours?
Yeah, it was so good. Peter Parker, of course, as you mentioned, really doesn't have any motivation. Nobody at all really has any motivation. I thought it was funny how they tried to use the this kind of cliche of the early Spider-Man comics where, Peter's sick all the time and that makes him relatable, but, like, that's kind of a funny gag in the comics and he's relatable for other reasons. Here he just, like, doesn't take his allergy pills and they're like, look, kids, you can relate to a kid who has allergies.
Is he sneezing because he got spider powers? What is going on?
Yeah, it was very strange, and Aunt May is like all over him about it, and that was really comical. I really wanted to see wheat cakes in this because that's the quintessential Aunt May dish that she serves in the Maybe Fantasy 15 that everyone always makes fun of. But we didn't get to see that.
You notice they have like 2 meals together, and she only makes soup.
Yeah, it's funny. And the funny thing about this too is like I noticed some other callbacks to the Spider-Man comics, like the that machine that they linger painfully long on that's pouring something into a hole that takes like 10 minutes, and you're like, oh my god,
yeah.
please move on. That thing looks exactly like the claw machine that Dr. Octopus uses in his origin in the comics, so that was kind of cool. Like there was some little references and stuff, and like if you look at the Spider-Man comics before this show, his eyes are always portrayed as like the cloth comic book kind of thing, like Batman, where his eyes are just white and it's just like, oh, deal with it. The whole thing about the eyes being lenses, I think, comes from the show, and I think that's really cool. And I think there's maybe a small influence on the first Spider-Man movie with Raimi's design and having the reflective eyes, because this was the only other thing that's done that, and I think that's really cool. And I did notice in the scene where he's sort of tossing and turning in his bed, it reminded me a lot of the scene in the first Raimi Spider-Man movie where they're kind of flashing silhouettes of the spider over him as he's dreaming and stuff. So I mean, you at least got to give it that it influenced it in some way, I suppose.
And for the time for television and stuff, the costume looks fine. I mean, like, if we had better stories, the production values aren't the worst thing ever. I mean, like, and the wall climbing looks okay. It's just it's all they want to do. It's all they've got. He's just constantly like my favorite thing is the montage of wall climbing.
And they're really proud of it because they opened the show in the title sequence and it's just him crawling on stuff with that funk music, and you're like, yes, this is great. So one of the other things I noticed influence on the movie-wise too is this is the first time we've seen first-person shots of Spider-Man on film, just like the first Amazing Spider-Man movie. What? Like, they thought of that before Mark Webb did? This is crazy.
I gotta tell you, when I saw those shots in the Amazing Spider-Man trailer in the film, I instantly thought of this. Actually,
it's so crazy.
I couldn't believe they went first person, and yeah, my mind went to the same place. I was like, this should be in 3D.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, I just didn't expect this to have any sort of bearing on anything Spider-Man moving forward because no one ever talks about it. I was able to find a crappy recording of a VHS tape on YouTube. All the episodes are on there. So I want to watch through all of it now to just see if there's any more sort of things in there. I want to see if there's any more characters in the comics because the only characters that I noticed were Peter, J. Jonah Jameson, Robbie Robertson, and Aunt May. I didn't really notice anyone else from the comics. I'm surprised to not see Betty.
Robbie?
No, Betty does not show up. There is a character similar to Glory Grant, but
oh, okay.
She doesn't have the same name. She's just similar. And Aunt May is played by, I think, 3 different actresses during the course.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
I can't believe they avoided, or they continue apparently in the series to avoid so many comic characters when they use Robbie Robertson. Why?
Yeah, they use Robbie.
I love Robbie in the comics. I mean, I was.
I do too. It's just for most people, that's a pretty minor character. I mean, you're right. If you've read the comics, he's not. I'm just saying that. I mean, like I was surprised they used J. Jonah Jameson. I figured he would be a really generic. In fact, when I saw Daily Bugle, I was surprised. I was like, oh wow, there's actually comics. Because what I had always heard about the show was he's called Peter Parker. That's it, and that's as far as it goes. And not really, like, there's a little bit more than that. And I also would make the argument, tell me what you think of this, Dan, that it's in college, he's in college instead of high school because that's where they're at status quo-wise in the comics right then. And that would make you think that maybe they would use more from the comics right then if they're trying to line it up like that. In fact, I have an issue, and I forget which issue number it is, that's a cover of this show, trying to advertise the show.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. Cool.
Yeah, Marvel for about a year or so, when Hulk and Spider-Man were on TV, they would have these little splashes in their corners, like Marvel's TV sensation.
Yeah.
And they would do that.
One of them was a hit, and one of them was a major miss.
What's crazy is, actually, no, I know a little bit of the history on this. The show actually did not do that bad in the ratings. It didn't air that much, but when it was on, it was usually in the top 20, top 30.
What?
Wow.
Yeah, it did okay. The biggest problem was CBS didn't support the show. They had already had Wonder Woman and Hulk, and they were like afraid of being the superhero network. And they actually said that in an article I remember reading as a kid, and being a pretty mad 8-year-old that they were just canceling it. Just because they didn't want to look like they had superheroes.
They shouldn't have greenlit it and Incredible Hulk simultaneously, because it's not like, Hulk's been on for a while. It was the same year, was it not? Or was it a couple of years after?
It was 77. I can't remember if Hulk is before.
I think Hulk is 78, but I can't remember.
Yeah, but they were all in development at the same time.
Yeah, development, but I'm just saying that's so weird that they'd be like, oh man, we're becoming the superhero. Well, then don't relight it in the first place. I don't understand.
Too bad the CW wasn't around back then.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, CW just proudly like, hey, we'll make Hawkgirl's show. I mean, who cares? We'll do it.
Yeah, that's not happening apparently. But...
iZombie's been canceled for 5 years. Let's do a show.
Let's get Robbie Robertson off. Give him his own show.
And Jameson is played by a different actor in the regular series, by the way.
Oh, really?
Which is unfortunate because I like the guy who plays Jameson is also Larry Tate from Bewitched. And
oh, really?
Jameson
it's the same actor.
Because he's a little bit more kind-hearted and likable than he is in the comics. He's not kind of like a complete stereotype of like a mustache-twirling, cigar-smoking publisher. He at the beginning, he was like, "Oh, Peter, I'm giving you a chance because you're a kid working, trying to get yourself through college, and I did the same thing, and I can empathize with you." I was like, "J. Jonah Jameson has empathy? What is this? Where am I?"
And he and Robbie seemed really bonded pretty well.
Yeah.
He's worried about journalistic integrity. His whole thing is, I'm not going to post these pictures because I don't think it really happened. I'm like, you're not supposed to care about that.
You know what I think?
Tabloid, dude.
As I was rewatching this for the first time in years, and actually I'm pretty impressed with myself. I remembered a lot correctly. Barbera, the police detective, seems more like Jameson.
Yeah, that's what I thought. He was a cartoon character, that guy.
He was amazing. It's like, Peter Parker comes up, talks about how he almost, killed him with the car, and he acts like, oh, this idiot. Okay, why? It's like, he's a victim. Would you, be a little bit cool about it? I mean, he's, mad at him for almost getting killed.
Yeah.
And you know what's crazy? What's that?
I was just going to say, in that scene, Peter gives the worst excuse of all time as to why he didn't see the crime. He's like, I closed my eyes because I was afraid. He's like,
yeah.
The police are really gonna buy that? I mean, come on.
You know what's? I got a crazy trivia piece, by the way. The actor who plays Barbera's partner, Monahan, that's Bob Hastings from Batman the Animated Series.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh my god.
Yeah, the guy who played Commissioner Gordon in Batman the Animated Series.
And he just recently died too, didn't he?
Yeah, like 2 years ago, 1 or 2 years ago. Yeah.
And we should just let Manos pick every other retro thing so that he can tell us anything.
That's right.
Tidbits that I didn't know before. I gotta say real quick that the funniest thing in the entire show for me, besides the climbing montage, because besides that and the pseudo ninja guys, is Peter Parker wins because his name's in the title, and I know that happens a lot, but here it's especially funny because he's not all that smart as far as being a superhero goes, and of course, I mean, he's brand new at it, so like, we could have done something with that, but like, he just gets mind controlled and he almost commits suicide, and the only reason he doesn't is because his tin, the thing that is making him mind controlled, gets latched onto a sharp object, it breaks down, and then he's like, oh man, I don't want to kill myself. He puts on a suit and then he wins in like 2 minutes, and then that's how it ends. And like all that had to happen, so like the real hero of this piece, he's a guardrail.
The thing I laughed at the most, that was really funny. I mean, the whole episode had me belly laughing the entire time. But my favorite moment was Byron's speech about happiness. That's supposed to be pseudo deep self-help.
Yeah.
And he's like, you don't have happiness. You think it's something you can reach out and take. I'm going to teach you how to be happy. And like, they act like that's the crux of what the story's supposed to be about. And some lady's like, I don't understand what you mean. Explain it. And he just says the same thing, basically, with different words.
Mm-hmm. And then the girl that Peter seems like he's maybe romantically interested in is like, because Peter's like, this all seems like a bunch of buck to me, and she gets half offended, and she's like, no, I understand it, and I might need some help from these people.
Well, who wouldn't be so charmed by the loving and giving, charming, huggable Byron, who seems so caring and adorable.
Some of the reaction shots of people too when they're acting, like, you made me think of the girl that Peter's interested in when he's like, "Will I see you again?" She just looks at him with like this deadpan stare and goes, "Sure," and then drives away.
It's like,
oh man!
I wondered if maybe there was supposed to be a little bit more going on with him that didn't quite make it into performance. Where it's like, is that because he's like really nerdy, or like what exactly is going on? And the whole thing about like happiness and its relation to control and all of that you could have done something with that with the character of Peter Parker, who like maybe doesn't have a lot of control in his life and is doing all kinds of stupid things to get $46 and there was something potentially there, but we didn't do anything with it. And I just love how this is an origin story, but the origin is done in about 15 minutes. And I kept thinking maybe there could be more to it, because after all, Peter in the comics, of course, gets his powers, and then there's a lot more to his origin after that, because it's all about decisions he makes that informs his worldview. In this, I was thinking, well, maybe there will be decisions that he makes that inform his worldview, and it turns into just, no, he's got powers now. We haven't heard at all from Steve. What did
let's go, Steve.
I've got no thoughts on this. This is hilariously bad. I don't know what I watched. I'm just enjoying the conversation. I'm not a big fan of Spider-Man. I've never cared much for the character, but I think it's inherently interesting to do mind control plots for characters that are obsessed with morality, like Batman, Spider-Man, and Daredevil. And this is not that at all. This is none of that. This is just hilariously bad. The music's awesome, though. I think the music's pretty great. And the costume, like you said, looks pretty good. But I don't know. There's just nothing in here for me except I wish I had someone like Manos or Dan or Cap there to watch it with me so we could like make a riff tracks for it. It's more fun to do a commentary on than anything else.
I want to do a commentary on it. I think it's a wonderful idea. I think the whole panel could potentially get away with doing that. I don't usually like to put 4 people on a commentary, but this thing, I think you could about get away with that.
Well, man, you have to have me on this.
Oh, yeah. Yes, you will be. That'll happen. I almost think, and I'm not going to do this because I'd hate to, get copyright flagged. I almost could probably, with this one, get away with using the actual video without getting flagged, but...
At the very least, you can put a link at the bottom.
Yeah, this is the thing everybody could see. No one's going to own this because they never put it out. They should, though. They should do a Spider-Man tie-in and actually put this out.
They should. That would be amazing.
Yes.
They should do a Halloween costume for kids from the show where it's like clearly just the one suit they have for the production, and they don't have one where the mask comes off like it's supposed to, and he has to like put it over his shoulders. The mirror. Like, yes.
Make it like that, dude. Why did he make it like that?
I do at least like the costume, actually. It's the only live-action Spider-Man costume that looks like it was made by a regular human being.
That's true.
Rather than a huge production company. I know Amazing Spider-Man tried a little bit, but still, it's like, that looks really good.
Yeah, it did.
And I gotta say, they were really proud. We talked about how proud they were of the climbing sequences. Yeah, they really pitched the show on that. There were articles like how they did it, and there'll be even shots in the other episodes. I remember like people, like you actually see real bystanders, like looking out windows at this stuntman walking up, crawling up the walls of these buildings. A lot of the show, some of the show was shot in Los Angeles actually, and they did as many exteriors as they could to make it look and feel like New York, which I think they do a pretty decent job. I mean, there's a couple of shots of some streets, and it's like, I don't know if that's New York or not, but I think they did a pretty decent job at that. God, I could probably keep going about this show.
I'm with you, Manos. I think the best thing about the show is probably the guy who plays Peter. I thought he was pretty good for what he was given. I thought he did pretty well. I think he got like the nerdy awkwardness of Peter down pretty well. He looks enough like him. Yeah, I mean, I didn't have any problems with him.
I think one of the things, they were a little limited on what Spider-Man obviously can do. I mean, they can't they couldn't at the time, show him like jumping around like he does in like the Amazing Spider-Man or the Raimi movies. So they have him basically like do this a lot.
It was so great too when he's testing out the webs and like he's swinging on a tree branch that clearly can't support his weight, and he has to like you see the actor just like pull his legs up like as far as he can so he doesn't scrape the ground because they can never do the shot over again.
I was like, why did he put on that tree? Before he hit the tree, I could tell it was too small of a tree.
I loved it when he got outside and crawled all over his house.
Yeah, just all over it. It's like, well, look what I can do. My favorite thing is he'll be on a building, people will be passing by, and he'll just like hang there like he's a wall ornament, looking at people, and occasionally he'll just walk up a little bit. People are just going around like it's business as usual, and then there's those people like, it was the guy who was on a wall, but then there's that one token part. There's these other places where he's just walking around a wall, and nobody even notices. Would someone explain something to me? Does
What's
he
that?
have spider sense? Because there's one scene where it was the scene Dan was talking about where he was running away from the car that was speeding toward him, right?
Yeah, at the speed of a rascal.
He's just kind of lumbering around, and they do the quick cuts that we had in Incredible Hulk. I noticed, by the way, a lot of editing that was really similar to some of the stuff that was in Incredible Hulk, but it was kind of more like it worked more dramatically in that show, and was also very much product of its time. The script and the acting was good enough in that I could still sort of take it seriously. This, during that scene, it kept like cutting back and forth, like these weird quick cuts, and I kept thinking, okay, is that to create some kind of like tension to make me think the car is moving faster, or is it because he's got spider sense and he's afraid he's going to get hit? But then they never do that again, so I don't know if he has spider sense.
He does, and I remember Spider-Sense in the show. It's just when you write bad Spider-Man, and I've seen quite a bit of bad Spider-Man, they forget to use his Spider-Sense at certain times, like a lot in this particular pilot. But I did like when he's like gassed. His Spider-Sense doesn't seem to get when the mind-controlled martial artist attack him. He has no clue it's coming.
You'd think when he got the pin, and the guy was like, "Here is your pin. Keep it with you at all times." Then he walks away. You'd think, "Oh man, Spider says something's gonna happen with that guy." Nothing.
Yeah, I guess it worked on the Spider sensor as well. It's like, I also loved a couple moments like when he jumps on the wall. I mean, the scene where he's fighting the martial artists and he jumps up on the ceiling. I thought that looked pretty good. When he jumps up on the wall is pretty good. Although, to be honest, it didn't seem like it had any tactical advantage during the fight.
Oh, it was really low ceiling. They're coming at him. He gets on the ceiling, and all of a sudden they're like, "Oh my God, he's on the ceiling. Guess we'll stop fighting him then."
Oh, and then there's that one moment where he webs them with like it looked like shredded Kleenex. I mean, and it seemed to be as effective because they immediately got up and ran after him. I guess it wasn't to hold them still. I guess it was just to annoy them.
Yeah, no, that looked like maybe it was. That looked like the kind of spider webbing that you get for like haunted houses for like at Halloween.
Silly string.
That's what that was. And they're just laying there like, "Oh no!" And then all of a sudden you see them again, and there's none of it on them, and you're like, either this webbing disintegrates really fast.
My favorite use of Spider-Man's powers in this by far is when he doesn't even have the costume yet, and he's kind of standing on that wall, and he sees the purse snatcher steal that lady's purse, and he just stays on the wall and yells "Stop!" and it works.
Yeah, that's right. He's like, "Stop!" and everybody looks at him. And it's like, "Oh my God, that guy's sticking to a wall."
Hey You doesn't always work except this one time.
Well, we are. We should go to open.
I got one more thing actually.
What else?
I love the scene, which was genuinely funny, and they tried to make funny at it. I thought it was when he was hurt after fighting the martial artist, and he tries to get that cab ride.
Oh, that was hilarious.
That was pretty funny.
That actor is, I don't know, I've never seen that actor before, but oh my God, he played off Spider-Man really well. It's like, I ain't taking you anywhere.
Peter Parker, you are an idiot. He's like, "I'll pay you when I get to my house." And you're like,
yeah.
"Peter Parker, you're gonna in costume have somebody take you to your house." I was actually really surprised and jarred for a minute because he stands there in his costume, and the guy's like, "What the heck are you supposed to be?" And he's standing there in his costume, and I'm like, okay, so there is a rule that he, for some reason, can't talk when he's wearing this costume. And he starts talking. And I was like, "Oh, so he does sometimes talk when he's wearing that mask. Okay." And he's like, "I came from a masquerade party." I'm like, "Here's an idea, Spider-Man. This guy is creeped out and doesn't even want to help you. Why don't you take your mask off? After all, you're gonna show him where you live."
Oh man,
the logic of this Peter Parker. And again, he could be that daft and it worked because he learns how to be more street smart. No, he just wins because he's Spider-Man.
Well, you can be daft and it's okay if the creators are aware of it, but if they're not aware of it, then yeah, it's not that great.
They do not know that. They should have called this show "The Amazing Spider-Man: The Quest for $46."
Manos, I thank you for showing me this show, because now I want Marvel to put out a Spider-Man 77 comic where they actually do the villains on this budget.
And could we write it? Could you and I write that? I think that would be the best thing.
I would love to write that, and I would love it if they'd use the Marvel villains, but they were just like CBS TV villains, just in suits.
Yeah.
What I would do with that is on like page 2 or 3, it'd be a bunch of panels, it'd be like 15 panels, right?
I'm just him crawling.
He's crawling this way. Now he's crawling. Now he's crawling up this way, and then to make it even more preposterous, I give you arrows to show which one you're supposed to look at when.
I would include 5 pages of trying to pour water.
After all, they did that in this episode with a claw hand.
Man, I remember watching that. I was watching that, rewatching it this week actually, and I was like, wow, I don't remember this little moment taking this long. This is really long.
There's not even any dialogue over most of it. It's just the arm trying to pour like some chemical into a hole, and it doesn't work.
You guys, I was watching this late last night. That's where I fell asleep. All right, let's go ahead and go to the open forum. Everybody that's watching live, I haven't been reading comments because everybody's been talking about other Spider-Man things, so they're on topic. They're talking about Spider-Man. They're just not talking about this. So anyway, let's go ahead and go to open forum now. For the next 10 or 15 minutes, we're going to talk about whatever you folks would like us to talk about. Ask us questions, make comments right now about comics and screen stuff, anything you want to. The big thing right now, of course, is that Spider-Man has been officially cast and was not the person that we thought he was officially cast as in the first place. What is it now? Is it Tom Holland?
Yes, Tom Holland.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
I've not really looked into this at all, except just to see that that's who they chose. Do you guys have any opinions? There's a lot of people complaining that like Sony has too much influence, and people like even more not interested in the Spider-Man thing, going over to Marvel because because they're afraid Sony is fighting with them too much. They're not gonna compromise very well. What do you guys think about what's happening right now with that?
I don't think we know enough about what's going on between the two of them to know who has more creative control and who's strong-arming who. Like, it's all rumors and hearsay. Like, I just hope the movie's good, and I am optimistic that the movie will be good. I like Spider-Man, and I like movies. So if those two come together and make something enjoyable, I will watch it and enjoy it. I'm kind of done looking at, like, rumor mongering about it and stuff. The director that they chose is kind of an indie director who's making a name for himself at Sundance this year. There's a movie that came out that's getting really good reviews that he did. He has a background in comedy as well as drama and horror too, so he can do a bunch of different tones. I think they're picking the right people. I mean, this kid's really young too. He's only 19 years old, so they can keep him around for a while and maybe do an actual coming-of-age story that begins and ends with Spider-Man, which would be refreshing because they tried to do that at the beginning and then they kind of, de-aged him and he was like 25 living in Aunt May's house still. So, hopefully it's good. That's just my thoughts at the moment. I don't really know anything about the director or the actor. I haven't seen any of their work, so.
I 100% agree with Dan. Everything he just said was how I feel, frankly.
Yeah, I agree as well. I still wish it was Asa Butterfield and Drew Goddard doing it, but that's okay because Marvel's been really good about picking directors and actors, even if later in production something bad happens. So at least we know they've got good taste. Now, whether or not it follows through, we'll have to see.
I think people have to remember too, like Sony isn't this like mustache twirling supervillain that's out to ruin all Spider-Man movies ever. They came off 2 movies that people didn't like a whole lot, but they made the first 2 Spider-Man movies with Raimi too, and that's the same studio, and a lot of people like those. I personally liked the first 2 Raimi movies, and I like things about the other 2 in the other series as well. And Avi Arad isn't involved in producing anymore, and he's the guy that always seemed like the guy who didn't know what was going on in the interviews about the movies in the first place. There's a new head at Sony. There's newer people at the top. I don't know. I don't know. I don't understand why Sony's being characterized as this like evil entity in this deal.
It is really easy to look at a company like that and go, here's their history and here's mistakes I don't like that they've made, and then forget that a company is made up of people and that those people change, and sometimes who was in charge of a thing before is not necessarily who's in charge of it now. I think it's really easy to forget that. I had a tendency for a long time to continue to make fun of Fox for canceling shows prematurely and not putting them on the not putting them on a regular time and stuff like that. But like that doesn't happen as much anymore because there's different people running it. You know what I mean? So it's really easy to do that. And now but on the flip side, the question we got to ask ourselves, of course, is and I mean we just won't know until we see it. But if the Ace of Butterfield and Drew Goddard are who Marvel really wanted, and Sony, and it was Sony that got them to change it, then who knows if this is going to be a good pick or not? Or maybe they're both equally good, but there's no knowing.
Yeah, exactly. We're not going to know until we see the movie. That's why I'm kind of done trying to know every little factoid there is to know about it, because at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is if the movie's good and if it makes money for Marvel. So.
Daniel,
it seems like Marvel's happy about it, so I guess we'll see how that translates when we see Spider-Man in Civil War next year.
Yeah. Daniel DS claims that Bruce Timm actually did produce Gods and Monsters, and Alan Burnett wrote and co-produced it. So I just haven't looked into that. So if that's the case, but why does the animation look so different? Or am I wrong? I thought it looked.
The animation looked awful when we reviewed the trailer, so I'm not sure.
I haven't really noticed that. To be honest, I don't remember the trailer anymore.
Okay, well then we have no opinion yet. So
yeah, I will go with that. No opinion.
Yeah, everybody always wants to know my opinion on things I don't have opinions on, and then I'm like, okay, I'll try to come up with an opinion, and it's like, well, no, I don't have an opinion.
Logan, it is totally cool to tell people, look, I don't know.
Is that okay? Can I do that? Okay.
It is okay. I do it all the time.
Thanks, Manos. Sometimes I got to get Manos' permission on things.
Be yourself.
Thanks, man. Rocket, do you think what do you think of Agent Carter Season 2 being set a year after the first season and in Hollywood? Ooh, it's in Hollywood? That's interesting.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's exciting. That's very exciting, yeah.
40 Hollywood? That's cool.
I love the idea. If this is what they're doing, I love the idea of we don't have to jump onto right where we left off. We can tell little mini series, like we can tell a whole story and set it a little bit after it. That's really cool. I love that they've got their own format and that they're not trying to be Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That's great.
Thank God.
Yeah. Maybe Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. should try to be Agent Carter. But
we love Daredevil, we love Agent Carter. Like, I wish that would rub off on the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show. And I like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. a lot.
Agent Carter's just in a completely different category, though.
In a different
league. Yeah.
I agree. Divid22, Captain Logan, would you watch a Spider-Ham series? Oh, yeah, sure. I'd eat that up with a spoon. I think...
Ultimate Spider-Man basically is Spider-Ham. He turns into toast in one of the episodes. So.
That's a good point. But yeah, if you had I think a cartoon show that was set in that universe could be really funny.
It would be really funny, I agree.
I hope we get a Bat Cow series to complement that then.
Bat Cow! Yes! Well, I honestly, I've always said that Tiny Titans could easily be a TV show.
Yeah.
Could be turned into a cartoon show, and a lot of people like the Crypt of the Superdog show. I never saw that, but I think it'd be fun. It'd be fun to do, a show that was made for that was sort of kind of made for 5 and 6 year olds, but that had some tongue-in-cheek humor, and you could be older and watch it. What I think would be really cool if we had more shows about superheroes. Children.
No, there's what? Get out of here! That's crazy talk.
Sometimes they'll say that, and people are like, "Man, Captain Logan, why do you need so badly for everything to be for kids?" No, I'm not saying everything. I'm saying variety. Give me something. There's not anything. Something else that's not Lego. Lego's doing great. Something else too would be wonderful. Okay, here we go. John Johnson. I'm actually going to read this because it's hilarious. Steve, you really should have said like 200 words or less, John Johnson, by the way. You really should have said that. But John Johnson says, Steve, explain Nietzsche.
Okay. Very, very simple. Have you ever believed...
Manos went, He like...
If you've ever believed anything in your life ever, read Nietzsche, and you'll find out you're wrong, and that's the best way to explain it. Nietzsche is someone that says, if you value something, what's the importance of that value itself? And that's why he's fascinating.
Wow. That is the most concise about anything philosophically I've ever heard. Manos, come back, man! You don't have time! I know you thought you could make a sandwich, but there's no time!
I'm here. I haven't gone anywhere.
Sorry.
I'm just getting a drink. Hey, John.
Oh.
By the way, John Johnchick, he and his wife just had a baby.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
congratulations.
Congratulations! Wow. Man, I thought John Johnsick was a kid.
He is a kid.
We have been...
John is 12. I don't know if you knew that.
He's been watching us for a long time. We've been at this for so long that I have these mental ages in my head of people that, like, they just never get older. And so I hear things like that. I'm like, oh my god, that guy... Wow, I got old somewhere. Let's see. People are asking us how we feel so far about Arkham Knight. Don't want to talk too much about that because I don't want to give away spoilers for folks that haven't played it, and I don't want people to give away spoilers for me because I'm not that far in yet. I've been posting gameplay, so you know, my feelings about that so far, you know, in there. Steve has played it. Steve, you're finished with it, yeah?
Yes, I'm just doing random Riddler stuff at this point. So, I think it's better than Arkham City. It's easily the best gameplay Rocksteady has ever done. It's absolutely fantastic with hit detection and Batmobile techniques and the graphics and the way they've crafted the world. It's 10 times better than what Arkham City was in that respect. And I think the story is as good as anything Dini's ever written. I was really, really bummed by figuring out who the Arkham Knight was, but telling this story, this is exactly the character you'd want to pick for Arkham Knight. The only issue I've ever had with it is that they marketed it as if the Arkham Knight is this big, huge mystery, and it's not. You figure out who it is within the first 5 minutes. If you know this character at all, hearing the first lines coming out of Arkham Knight's mouth, you know who it is. He quotes lines from one of his most famous story all over the place.
I feel stupid, right? Don't say things like that. So I'm still not 100% sure, and I feel like a complete idiot.
See, when you figure out who it is, you're going to kick yourself for not knowing the whole time.
You just said that I'm not qualified to do my job. That's what he said. Steve just said, Captain Logan, quit talking about Batman, you boob. Stop it. You're done. You don't know enough. You're done. You idiot. You should have known Arkham Knight right away. Thanks, Steve. The nicest thing you've ever said to me. That you didn't actually say to me. Oh, who said... A random reviewer said, I can't believe it's not Butterfield. Who said that? Because that's really funny. I can't believe it's not Butterfield.
So who's the Arkham Knight?
No, don't do that. Dan, have you played it yet?
No, I haven't even bought it yet. It looks good, though. I'm looking forward to playing it.
It's really good. It uses next-gen technology the best I've seen of any game. It completely knows how to use what PS4 and Xbox One are capable of.
That's awesome.
Okay, I've been getting this a lot lately. Random reviewer, Cap, why haven't you ever discussed The Walking Dead? It's based on a comic book after all. Yeah, I haven't done Walking Dead yet just because I didn't start with it. I've probably mentioned this on the show before, but people keep asking me this, so I'm feeling the need to mention it again. When we started this show, of course, we've been doing the discussion shows for a while, and it turned into this. And everything we did the discussion shows on were always things that we started with. And The Walking Dead was the one comic book show that was on before we started Arrow discussions all those years ago now. And so Walking Dead's a thing that I'm not against maybe eventually catching up on and doing. It's just a matter of will I have co-hosts that want to talk about it? Because I'm not a big zombie guy, so I can't get really excited about it. But then I've said that to people, and they're like, "Well, you watch iZombie?" I'm like, "Well, we've said a million times that iZombie is kind of its own thing."
Yeah, that's very different.
iZombie is the equivalent. It is the zombie equivalent of tilapia. It is the zombie show for people who don't like zombies. That's what it is. Tilapia is the fish for people who don't like fish. And so anyway, but I'm not against maybe eventually doing that. It's 5 seasons in, and I haven't started watching it yet, so I might eventually. Steve doesn't care for it, I don't think.
I watched like 5 seasons of it, and I think it's
wow,
pretty bad. So
you got further than I did. I got few episodes into season 2, and I was like, I'm
I think season 1 was the best it's ever been. So
now I will say this: Curious Lowe's a big fan of that show, and she knows it pretty well. I don't know if she's read the comics, because I usually like to have somebody that's more of an expert than me on a thing. And I don't have that for Walking Dead either. But well, actually, anybody that knows anything about that is more of an expert than me. But I mean, I don't have an expert for that show. But I don't know. We might bring her on and do that eventually if I can catch up on it. Or just let her talk about it by herself. Wouldn't even bother. People are like, we want Walking Dead. Okay, all right. Well, that gives me time to go make a sandwich. Anyway, Bamboo, that must be why I like iZombie then, right? It's tilapia.
You could call the show The Walking Lou. Walking Lou.
One or two more. William Parcell, do you think it could be revealed in X-Men Apocalypse that Apocalypse was behind Weapon X? Anything's possible. Is that Weapon X movie still happening?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm sure it is. But,
I'm hoping that the last Jackman Wolverine movie is an Old Man Logan adaptation.
Or not Weapon X, I'm sorry.
Swan song for Wolverine in that universe.
I'm getting tired.
Definitive rumor.
Yeah, I didn't mean to say Weapon X. Never mind. Yeah, I guess that's possible. I mean, because the big question right now is what in the world is there even a Weapon X anymore in that continuity? But I have to assume that if there is, it has something to do with Mystique.
And I think Jennifer Lawrence is done after Apocalypse, so they have to recast her if they were to use her in any capacity for another movie.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's fine. That's a great thing about being a shapeshifter. I mean, we can recast that, till the end of time.
Yeah, exactly.
You can even get Rebecca Romaine back, actually, if you want.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I'm sure she'd be down.
Well, Cryptofreak says Walking Dead is better than Gotham, and that wouldn't surprise me.
A lot of things are better than Gotham.
Yeah, so is Chief O'Hara Takes a Dump, the series.
Oh, don't say that. Anyway,
I love that show. I will not have it besmirched.
I think that's. Well, anyway, anything else you guys wanted to talk about before I reveal what we're going to be talking about for next time?
Well, I have. No, I don't have anything.
Okay, well, yeah. Manos, look, I'm sorry we haven't talked about the Chief O'Hara show yet, okay? That's another one that... It was on for 6 years before we got started. And I'm sorry, Dan, were you saying something?
I was just saying nothing I can think at the moment in response to your question, so I didn't say anything.
All right. Well, so for our retro series for next time, first of all, I should mention that next time we're going to cover some Steven Universe because Manos loves that show and he's constantly sending me messages about it. So I told him we could do that. So
and Steve likes it too.
I do. It's great.
Just so it'll stop harassing me, we're going to talk about it. No, I enjoyed the episode I saw, so we're going to tackle that next time. Also, we're going to talk about another retro thing. We're going to be doing the Retro Comics to Screen series all through the summer, and my pick for next time is the 2-part animated X-Men episode, Days of Future Past. I think it'd be really interesting to talk about the 90s X-Men take on that. X-Men 92 just came out, the first issue of that. I really enjoyed that. I'm kind of in the mood for that show right now, and I thought it might be kind of fun since we had X-Men Days of Future Past last year, the movie, if we tackled the that version of it. So that's what we're gonna do. I'll find a way for everybody to watch it. It's on Hulu if you have Hulu, or if you pay for the monthly version. But I'll see if I can find a way for you guys to watch it that don't have that. So anyway.
I don't have Hulu, but I'll see if I can find out my own method. But if not, I'll ask you for a link or something. But that's awesome. Steven Universe and X-Men? High five, man.
I'm going to go back and read the Claremont story, too, because I think it's only like a 1 or 2 issue thing. So I want to compare it to the show and see how close they get, because for a lot of that stuff, they got pretty close.
They did, yeah. I think the Gambit stuff in that is kind of different. I mean, it's kind of new, but other than that.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, because Gambit wasn't in the original.
It wasn't around then. Yeah.
Yeah, and that show had no Kitty Pryde.
I hate that. I love Kitty Pryde.
And that's something that baffled me. There was like 40 billion characters in that show, and they could never. I mean, was Kitty Pryde ever in that
Was
show?
she ever in it?
No.
Not that I remember.
She's pretty much a main character in X-Men Evolution in the 2000s, but not in the 90s series at all.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, anyway, so for next time, everybody that has access to it, they can watch it. Watch that episode. It is Future Past from the 90s X-Men cartoon. And in the meantime, we'll see you next week. I'm Captain Logan. This was Dan Torrey.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
The Real Manos.
Bye, everybody. This is some Spider-Man music for us.
And Steven,
See you.
Bye, folks.